Hi, we're going to make some awesome engineered leggings today. When you start off making an engineered pattern, you should know kind of what garment you're going to make. You may even want to choose a picture to texture map it on ahead of time. That is, if you're making it for your textile design portfolio, like my students are, right? And if you do choose an image before you choose your or before you start designing your pattern, if you do choose a photograph to put your pattern onto eventually, as inspiration for your large scale, all over engineered print, right? Um, if you do choose a picture ahead of time, just make sure that the picture is as large as possible. So we're looking at it being in a portfolio with all of your other 11 by 17-inch images, and you don't want it to be too much smaller. It is kind of acceptable. It's hard to find really large images, so if it's a little bit smaller, that's fine. 11 by 17 is 3300 pixels by 5100 pixels. So if you could try to have an image as close to that as possible, like, ideally within 1,000 pixels or so of those numbers. 3300 by 5100 is 11 by 17 inches in pixels. So just keep that in mind, that you want your image to be as large and as high resolution as possible, okay? When it comes to texture mapping, which we're going to talk about in the next video. But for this video, we're going to just focus on making an engineered pattern. I actually make and sell leggings like the one over here. Through Etsy and using a service called Printful. So I actually just grabbed my Printful leggings templates that Printful gives me. So Printful is a print-on-demand service that uh, will actually, it prints and makes and ships out my leggings, and all I have to do is promote and sell them. And they only make one at a time, so I don't have to invest any money into the business. It's just based on sales. I just have to, maybe buy one pair and then promote. And I don't really do much promotion anymore. And I still make sales because Etsy's search function is fairly it's fairly well balanced compared to like Amazon's search function. And I've also hit like a weird niche market with the Celtic leggings in particular, because there aren't that many Celtic sportswear out there. There isn't that much of it out there. So like there just are people looking for it, I guess, and they find me. So even though I don't do much for it, these things sell. We're going to use it today to make a engineered design. So I have basically just downloaded this PNG. It's a transparent file, and I just have this check pattern in the background to show you that it's kind of transparent. And if you are working with Printful or another printing service, they'll give you this type of template normally if it's an all over print, if this is something that they can do. And what this is showing us is this safe print area is under this like semi-transparent area, this lighter gray. And this safe print area is where you want, like, if you were going to include like text running down the outside of the legs, or like my Celtic yoga pants, like the Celtic knot was all within this safe print area. And that's basically like the smallest possible size that will be used. And then we have a slightly larger size, but all of it has to look good, right? Even though it might not get used, it has to look good. So even in between these leggings, Printful would request that you do a whole you know, you fill the whole page with your pattern and or with your background color. So it all has to be filled anyway. So I basically outlined these, and we are going to use them to make a an engineered pattern, a really basic one. And I'm just going to actually move these over here. So Printful has you upload all of these separately, but I'm going to engineer one large pattern. So I believe I require my students to do a pattern that's at least 40, um, yeah, I think at least 40 centimeters. And I think that I need 41. So I'm going to make a background rectangle that's 41 inches high. And we will stretch it out to make it as wide as we need. And let's give it a color. Oh, I'm on Essentials and I like working on the layout, but I had to reset my properties. It's not switching though. It still doesn't give me the bar at the top, but whatever. I can survive. Come on. It's really not. It's only letting me rotate it. It's being quite the brat. My color picker popped up over here. There we go, finally. All right. Let's put this on its own layer, and we will lock the first layer. So technically you don't even need this this layer. Sorry, let me get organized here. New layer. My favorite way to move things from layer to layer is to select them and then come over here and click and drag on the dot, and that will move anything selected to the layer that you drag it to. Okay, so now we will lock the the templates. But what I was going to say is that you don't actually really need a template layer. If you can kind of use your understanding of garments, right? We could have just said, like, okay, well, over here is going to kind of be the one leg, and over here is going to kind of be the other leg, and over here will be, the waistband. And that would be all you really needed in order to make a successful engineered design. And especially just for something as simple as a textile design portfolio, you really can get away with kind of like just generally making a large print and then placing it on the body in interesting ways once you get to your texture mapping. So if the patterning part of this intimidates you, feel free to ignore that part and just make a large print. So we are now going to start drawing some motifs in here. And I think that I will just kind of fast forward through that. I might bring in some artwork. I'm not sure. But we just need to fill these with artwork, kind of dependent on where they are. And what I'm imagining is kind of like um, a gradient of florals. I'm not sure yet. But that's what I'm thinking. So I will see you in a bit. This is voiceover Kelsey here to tell you that I did not choose flowers. I chose this image of some blacklight paint testing that I had done a couple years ago. And I cleaned it up with the eraser, and then I used the puppet warp tool to adjust it to the shape of the garments. And I'm going to tell you about the puppet warp tool in a second. So I was just mostly copying and pasting and using that tool. So I'm feeling pretty good about the layout of the leggings at least. And I want to take a second to make it into a straight repeat because I'm hoping that that will help me figure out what I want to do it what I want to do to it right here. So we're gonna make it into a seamless straight repeat really quick. So right click, transform, um, move. And remember, I know the height of this. I made it into 41 inches. Um, so we're going to move it directly 41 inches down. Okay, so horizontally 0 inches, vertically 41 inches. And we're going to hit copy so it's in both places. And this is us making it into a seamless pattern. So same thing with these shapes down here. Right click, transform, move. And this time it wants to go up, so we're going to do negative 41 inches because Illustrator has that backwards. And we're going to hit copy. So now it's in both spots. So that should be seamless top to bottom now. And we will add our side repeats. So we need to know first how wide this is, and we might have to make it into a rounder number. I actually already put my invisible bounding box back here too. So I'm going to select them both and adjust both of their sizes at the same time. Remember, for my technique to work, you need an invisible box behind your background square that's set to have no fill and no stroke. And that will act as like a clipping mask when we make it a pattern. So now I know that it's exactly 58 inches wide and it's still 41 inches high. And you want to make sure that this is unchecked when you're changing that, so you only change one dimension at a time. Oops. All right, so select the edges, right click, transform, move. And this time it's going 0 up and down, and it's just going negative 58. I didn't hit copy. All right, copy. So now it's on both sides. And I just want to kind of fill in the back waistband. And I used the puppet warp tool a lot in order to create this, which it works really well with, almost anything in Illustrator. Sometimes it's exactly what you need, but especially with auto traced things where they have like millions of anchor points that you can't really easily manipulate. Puppet warp is great. So I'm going to copy and paste this background, and I really don't want I don't want all of these shapes. I'm going to try just choosing the top, and we're going to try using puppet warp to kind of squash all these colors onto this one waistband to get as many colors on there as possible. So I'm just going to grab those. I'm holding Alt and clicking and dragging to copy and paste quickly. And then we are going to, with them selected, choose the puppet warp tool. I want to just show this to you in a place where it will be obvious what is happening. I guess I'll do it over here really quick, and then we'll move it back over there. So I'll zoom in on it. The puppet warp tool allows you to put anchors in a shape and manipulate the anchors, which then manipulates the whole shape like a puppet. So right now the mesh is really, really small. It puts a mesh over the whole shape. And if your mesh is this small, when you go to move one of these warps, it will just move like the part of the mesh that it's touching. If when you go to move one of these anchors, I mean. So I'm going to hit Control Z. And what we're going to do is expand the mesh. We're going to make the mesh really big. I'm actually just going to make it as large as possible. So up here in the properties, I'm bringing it all the way up. And now when I go to adjust, you'll see it adjusts the whole shape. So I can really manipulate it like crazy like this. So we are going to try to just arc it into kind of the general shape of the back waistband. And what's so great about this is that like because these are vectors, because I auto trace this image, these won't get pixelized or anything or out of focus. Like we can stretch them as much as we want, and we can click to add new anchor points. We don't have to stick with just what they put on there. So things can really get quite distorted pretty fast, but in this case, for this particular artwork, it's kind of what I'm going for here. Okay. This is plenty. Let's hit enter to apply this, and we'll move it back over to the waistband. Oh, I guess enter was unnecessary. I just had to switch tools. But we'll bring that back over here, and we'll see how that feels. That feels really exciting to me. So I am pretty happy with how this looks. But let's see what it looks like in repeat and see if I have any like mistakes or anything in my repeat. I'm trying to have this motif that I'm adding last not touch any edges because I don't want to do any more copying and pasting. So we're going to try defining it as a pattern. So I'll shut off my outline and select it all and go to Object Pattern Make. And this could slow down my computer a lot because it has so much going on. But there it goes. So it's added a swatch. And luckily it's only going to show me 3x3. All right, it's honestly pretty interesting. So let's hit done. I really would kind of like to add some more color right here. I don't really like this gap, but I'm going to let it go for now. And I'm just going to hit done, and we are going to talk about how I would present this in my textile design portfolio. So beyond also having a texture mapped fashion photograph, which will look like a real life version of these leggings, we are also going to have a 11 by 17 inch page of the pattern at 100% scale, so we'll only be able to see a small section of the pattern. Right? That's exactly what it should look like. If we want to choose a certain section of the pattern, we can go to Object, Transform, Move, and we can uncheck transform objects and only check transform patterns. And then we can adjust this until we see the part of the pattern that we want to see. So it might be tricky to do so. Start this at 0. Okay, so let's go -30. Yeah, cool. That looks fun. And then we are also going to show this pattern at something like, I think, 15% scale. So I'm going to make another artboard. Oops. And another rectangle. So artboard tool, new artboard, and it's another 11 by 17 inch artboard, which is the size of an open magazine to give you a sense of scale. And we will draw, or we can just copy and paste this pattern. We don't need to do any colorways, or I don't have my students do any colorways for this project. So we are going to do scale this time. And again, we want to uncheck transform objects so that it doesn't scale the rectangle. And let's try 15%. You kind of have to click out of it to see what it looks like. Yeah, so 15% shows the whole repeat. Let's hit OK and zoom in on it. Yeah. So we can always, it does show the whole repeat. We could always go smaller, honestly, and show even more of the repeats, but this is pretty good. I am going to do object transform move and just see if I can't get like a nicer focus as the center. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So, what we would then do is export this artwork as a JPEG and maybe open it up in Photoshop, and we're going to put it onto a garment in Photoshop. Get ready for that video coming up next, and I will see you there. Okay, let me know if you have any questions about repeating patterns in Illustrator. Basically, these same techniques that we've gone over in past videos about how to make patterns in Photoshop could be applied to large scale patterns. It's just working at that size, making sure there's room enough for all of the patterns that you've used. So if you prefer to work in Illustrator for this, all of the same kind of techniques apply. We're just making sure, that there's room, that it's a big pattern. All right. I will talk to you all later. Bye.